Good evening. I've been working my way through the Call of Duty campaigns one by one, in order. I'm not actually a big COD guy. I played a couple of the campaigns back in the Golden Age, and I would get super into zombies sometimes, but the multiplayer has never been my kind of bag. The first 6 games in this series that I just played were World War II shooters, which were huge at the time, and the Call of Duty games quickly became the top of the heap. They cranked out a crap ton of these in a pretty small window, releasing 6 games in only 3 years, and the quality ranged from terrible to okay to really good. But audiences at the time, and me after playing all these games in short succession, were quickly growing tired of this genre of shooter. The makers of Call of Duty, Infinity Ward, could smell this change in the market coming pretty early on, and decided to step away from the World War II setting right after completing Call of Duty 2. Modern military shooters were starting to gain a lot of traction, and that was obviously the right direction for this franchise to go. Right? Yes, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare would release on November 5th, 2007 on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC to overwhelming critical acclaim and record-breaking sales. The multiplayer was a bit of a revelation and really set the blueprint for what it would be to this very day. But I'm not a guy that talks about multiplayer. All I care about is the campaigns, and judging these games for the single-player experience they provide. And I never played this campaign when it came out. I've only played it once, and that was just a couple years ago, so this will be a nostalgia-free review as I decide objectively and definitively, beyond a shadow of a doubt, if this campaign is still the masterpiece that fans claim, or if it's kinda mid by current-day standards. As always, the game opens on a montage that shows you some of the stuff you'll be getting up to and establishing the tone, while also giving some hints at the game's story, because for the first time ever, this game has a full-on plot. The story of the older ones was just the Axis are trying to take over the whole world, so you have to shoot them all and win World War II. Which was a real event, so that story already existed. But for this one, Infinity Ward wisely figured that people wouldn't find it very fun to partake in the controversial real-life conflicts that we were seeing on the news at the time. So they had to write a completely original story, which was the correct move for a multitude of reasons. This game is set in the near-future year of 2011. There's a civil war going on in Russia, which is a big deal because Russia has a whole lot of nukes. Additionally, in the Middle East, a guy named Khaled al-Assad is currently reaching the end of a successful coup, soon to become one of the most dangerous leaders in the world. You step into the boots of the newly recruited British SAS officer Sergeant Soap McTavish. Like all 3 of the last main games, you begin on a base where you run through a tutorial. The core mechanics are pretty similar to those games, but there are some very significant additions that you get acquainted with here. Your superior officer Gaz gets you familiar with the new modern rifle as you shoot a few targets. You're now able to shoot through thin objects like wooden boards, which adds another layer of strategy and makes the gameplay more intense and realistic. Then you pick up a sidearm, then you switch to your rifle, then you pull out your sidearm. Remember that switching to your sidearm is always faster than reloading. That line is kind of a meme now, but it is a good tip if you never thought about it before. And knifing is even faster than that. The melee gun smack has been replaced with a knife that kills a man in one hit. Big improvement. You then meet up with your squad leader, Captain Price, who most people seem to agree is the grandson of Captain Price. The specifics of how he is or isn't related to his Call of Duty 1 and 2 counterpart doesn't really matter. He's basically the same guy. He sends you through an obstacle course where you learn 2 more new mechanics. Flashbangs, which you throw into a room and blind everyone in there and then mow them all down, a great tool. And sprinting, probably the biggest new addition to the core mechanics. I know some of the multiplayer modes in older COD games had something like this, and the campaign in United Offensive let you sprint for about 0.03 seconds, but it was really clunky in all those games. They really focused on making the movement feel smooth in this. It's much easier to quickly dash between cover or to go from crouch to sprinting to shooting, and mashing the control stick to run faster feels like you really mean business. Then it's time to get into the field. We watch a mission briefing, which is like a super modern version of the dusty old slide projector mission briefings that Jason Statham used to give us in the old games.
Our mission is to locate as many of these anti-air guns as possible, wipe them out so that the bombers can make their runs. This building at the foot of the dam.
In this game, every character sounds like Jason Statham.
Using your knife is even faster than switching to your pistol.
Get yourself sorted out. Wheels up at 0200.
I once used defibrillators on myself. I put shards of glass
I'm a fucking eye.
The squad is on their way to a cargo ship said to be carrying an important package. You take out the first couple of guys quiet as you work your way through a bit of the ship. It's cool to see some gameplay scenarios that aren't just straight firefights. This is really the franchise's first stealth mission. Some of them would have a mission where you take out one guy with stealth and then the shooting kicks off, but this is the first one where you're expected to maintain a stealthy approach for a bit. And it goes without saying, but the atmosphere in this mission is also very strong. Eventually stealth is blown and you have to fight a bunch of these guys head on. You learn how helpful flashbangs can be, and you get to try out a couple of the guns that the enemies drop. Feels so refreshing after cycling through the same handful of World War II guns for so many games. The core gunplay feels ridiculously good. The original game had decent shooting that they mostly improved upon a lot with Call of Duty 2, but this is the first one where I'm actually enjoying the mechanics and not just working around them. They locate the package, which turns out to be nuclear bomb making material, but hostile reinforcements are on their way and they have to get out of there fast, so they grab the manifest and haul ass. The ship is attacked and starts sinking, so you gotta run out of there even more. Another fun gameplay moment that isn't combat. It's just a scripted running sequence with some very, very light platforming, but I like that they're adding some variety to the gameplay. You escape the boat just in time, barely making your jump to the helicopter with a hand from Captain Price. Infinity Ward presents Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. Boom, the title card drops as this dope theme song comes in. The music was composed by Stephen Barton. Not the biggest musician to work on one of these games, but you'd recognize his work, and the score in this game is pitch perfect, leaving behind the heroic and triumphant anthems of World War II for a tense, dramatic work that's more in line with the modern setting and incorporating military noises like jet sounds and radio static. We then cut to the Middle East, where we take the perspective of the president of Middle East country, Yasser al-Fulani. You're being dragged by two armed men who throw you into the back of a car. With a little love tap, you're sent on your way. These other guys drive you through the devastated streets of Middle East country while you listen to a radio broadcast from the nation's newly crowned leader, Khaled al-Assad, talking some real shit about your time as president. The opening credits roll as you watch the new regime take the streets. So eerie and macabre, being just a passenger bearing witness to the violence, murder, and human misery on display. Plus, this guy looks like he's drowning in cologne. If it's your first time playing, you might not be 100% clear where you're headed, but either way, this is disturbing and always makes me feel a little sick. In a good way. When you reach your destination, you're dragged out of the car and tied to a post where you're met by al-Assad. A mysterious bald man hands him a gun, which he shows to the camera, then walks over to President al-Fulani and executes him in the face. Middle East country has fallen to al-Assad. The Americans have a plan for that, but in the meantime, we're back as soap. The squad is sent to rescue a Russian informant named Nikolai. Another mission that begins with stealth. You get some stealthy guns, the red dot sight really improves aiming, and the sniper scopes are far better than what we had access to in the World War II era. And they're really satisfying to shoot people with, which is aided by the extra helping of blood, making this the first M-rated game in the franchise. Also something about historical violence usually getting a lower rating than modern day violence or some shit. When we infiltrate this nearby town, we do some night vision stuff, having cool equipment like night vision and specialized guns, and being able to knife enemies where all they can do is hit you with their gun. That's what makes you feel like you're a real special ops, non-regular soldier, a real badass mofo, not just some guy like in the previous games.
Squad, I am Delta Tango Night Vision. What is your position?
Is this connected to the zombies lore? The team rescues Nikolai with the help of some local Russian loyalists, who I guess are the good guys of the Russian Civil War. After the mission, we switch perspectives to Sergeant Paul Jackson of the United States Marine Corps. You're briefed on a mission to drop into Middle East country and capture al-Assad. You fly in on these helicopters. Pretty cool right here. This is nice. This was the point where I really began to take in how great the visuals are. Obviously, they don't look like the best graphics of 2025, but they do hold up tremendously well. Infinity Ward's new engine and the very specific art direction feel kinda timeless. Jackson and the Marines work their way through the streets and into a TV station where they believe al-Assad is giving a speech. This is probably my favorite location in the game. We've never seen anything like it in the franchise before, and the physics of the computers and TVs and paper and debris flying everywhere during the shootout adds to the chaos in such a great way. But when they get to the newsroom, it turns out it was just a recording, and al-Assad is long gone. They regroup and chase him to the capital city of Middle East country, fighting their way through more streets. Yeah, you know, if you think about it, man, friendly fire isn't. The Marines have to get a tank moving, so we cut back to the English, who are flying their informant to safety in a helicopter when they are suddenly hit with a big fat missile, crashing their helicopter still within Russian borders, ending up in a bit of trouble in hostile territory. At this point, I had collected enough Intel laptops to unlock the first cheat. COD Noir, which turns the game black and white style. It actually looks kinda cool, I like COD Noir. They should make a Call of Duty game set in the 1940s. Eventually, reinforcements arrive in the form of a AC-130 super mega plane, an absolute beast of a military aircraft which you then take control of the weapons of. This is one of the most iconic moments in the game. Through thermal vision, you escort your men across these villages using the AC-130's full arsenal of weaponry. The plane has unlimited ammo and you're pretty much invincible, so you get a big dick feeling. They also throw in a handful of limitations to keep things interesting, and there's some cool insight into the way a team like this would communicate about positioning. The game developers worked with a lot of military consultants to make this stuff feel as authentic as possible. I guess everyone does that though. The boys are extracted and we move back to the Marines' perspective in the Middle East, escorting a tank and attempting to take the capital. I'm relieved that this game never makes you drive a tank. Every single one of the last 6 did, and they were usually super frustrating missions. Some games did it better than others, but they were mostly half-baked and unnecessary. These are the parts of Call of Duty 4 that feel the most like participating in modern warfare. American troops fighting through war-torn Middle Eastern cities. Even if the specific context here is entirely fictional, this is what war looked like in 2007. I like firing giant machine guns in this. They were really clunky and kinda useless in the older games, but the modern LMGs handle the same as the other guns, and they have great range, decent accuracy, you can move around easier with them. They're awesome for taking down large bunched-together groups or just standard combat. Grenade cooking and grenade throwing, which both originated in Treyarch games, finally make their way over, and they both feel far more refined. Soon the Marines get confirmation on Al-Assad's location, so they hop back in the choppers and head straight for him. They believe he may already be in possession of a nuclear warhead, so the Marines are going in fast and heavy. You shoot a big cannon from the side of a helicopter in this part, it's pretty fun. A friendly chopper goes down and you have to land to rescue the pilot, then evacuate. They do just fine, you get back to the helicopter and get in the air safely. Just when things seem better than ever, the nuclear warhead is detonated, giving us another iconic moment. As soon as you see the flash, your comms cut out. For a second it seems like you're going to be able to fly away in time, but then the blast hits, the helicopter starts spinning out of control, your man flies out of the back, and you crash land. Sergeant Jackson regains consciousness just long enough to painfully crawl out of the helicopter and take in how hopeless his situation is before meeting his end. Another very chilling moment that makes me feel a little sick. So well done. I have an issue though. Sometimes video games don't work the way they're supposed to. Sometimes something is supposed to happen in a game to progress the game forward, but it doesn't happen because of an error or a bug in the game. So when I first played Modern Warfare and nothing was happening in this part, I ended up restarting like 3 times, assuming that something was wrong before I realized that I was just dying. But that's probably just another case of fake gamer syndrome. It shouldn't take away from how great this moment is. R.I.P. Jackson. The other boys find out about the nuclear explosion, and Nikolai informs Price that Al-Assad would never sacrifice himself like that, so he has to be alive. He gives them the location of the safe house where he'd probably be. They drop in nearby and clear the town of a whole bunch of guys. I really like the change they made to the compass, being more 2D on the bottom of the screen. The old one was a bit confusing. This is a lot more clear. They find Al-Assad in this barn. Captain Price starts beating the shit out of him, asking him where he got the bomb and why he did the bomb. He doesn't give Price anything, but his phone rings. Price answers it, talks to someone, then shoots Al-Assad in the face, hanging up the phone and telling us the person on the other end was Imran Zakayev, who we find out was the bald guy who handed the gun to Al-Assad in the beginning, and Captain Price has a history with him. We then flash back to 15 years earlier when Price was a young lieutenant on a mission to infiltrate Chernobyl to take out Zakayev to stop him from continuing to traffic nuclear material for nuclear bombs. The team includes only Price and his commanding officer Captain McMillan for a super quiet stealth mission, quite possibly the most iconic mission in the game. You quietly move through this village, picking off guards as McMillan orders you to. It's not an instant fail if you make a little noise, but it's beneficial to keep things on the DL. About halfway through, when you're crossing a field, you notice an enemy tank squad crossing towards you, so you have to lay down in the grass in your ghillie suit and slowly weave between them so they don't notice you. A very tense moment for a gamer. You get deeper into the destroyed city, another one of the best set pieces in this game, and you slowly work your way up to a vantage point where you can get a clean shot on Zakayev. The position is pretty far away and it's a little windy out, so it's a difficult shot, but your window is small and there's no time to wait. After attempting to compensate for wind speed, you take your shot. It looks like a kill from where you are, so McMillan and Price begin their escape. A helicopter crashes on McMillan, causing him to become injured. You then have to balance carrying him with putting him down and shooting, as you can't do both at the same time. You get McMillan to the chopper and escape safely, but the mission is a failure. Zakayev, of course, lived, losing just his arm and is now back for revenge. Al-Assad was just a puppet this whole time. Back in present day, Soap, Gaz, Captain Price, and the rest of them have to make it back to the extraction point, which goes okay. They then team up with the US Marines to go after Zakayev. Price knows the best way to get to him is to go after his son, Niko Bellic. In an attempt to capture him, they kill a bunch of his guys at an outpost and dress up in their uniforms to set up an ambush. Pretty sure that's considered a war crime. Anyway, it's vital to capture Niko alive because he's their only lead whatsoever. He escapes the ambush and you chase him all through this town. This is where I got enough Intel laptops to unlock the ragtime warfare effect, which is the funnest thing in the game. We corner Niko on a roof and try to arrest him, but he's unfortunately able to pop his brain before we get a chance to do anything. A catastrophic setback considering he was their only lead and they really drilled in how fucked the situation would be if he died. Never mind, I guess Captain Price says don't worry about it. Zakayev is sure to show his face now that his son is dead. A still image of Zakayev gives a big villain speech about how he's gonna destroy the whole world. I feel like this would have had a lot more impact as a cutscene. Why are Infinity Wards so adverse to cutscenes? Well, now it's down to the wire. If our boys don't take the nuclear launch facility from Zakayev, he's gonna let those babies fly. We drop into the snowy mountains nearby and shoot people on our way to the facility. Very nice winter atmosphere in these mountains as the sun comes up. You arrive at the facility just a little too late and the missiles begin to launch. Their only hope now is to infiltrate the facility and stop the bombs remotely. No fighting in the war room. Nice, nice. That's a sick reference to the movie Doctor Strange. It's a pretty tough fight to get to the control room, but they push through with enough time left to save the world. A real bro move. But things won't be wrapped up until Zakayev is in the ground. Our team escapes the facility with Zaki's guys in pursuit who manage to destroy a bridge that we desperately needed to cross. The car crashes, we hold them off as long as we can, but Zakayev pulls up, kills most of your squad, including Gaz. Just when all hope is lost, Zakayev gets distracted by an explosion. Price slides a gun over to Soap and you bust these boys up, putting Zakayev down for good. Friendly soon arrive to help and it really looks a lot like Captain Price dies in this part right here, but he does return in the next game, so I don't know. He also died in Call of Duty 1 and then came back in Call of Duty 2, so I don't know anything. We lost some men along the way, but the world continues to spin thanks to us. Fade to credits. Then we actually get a post-credits mission, which at first I thought was a gay sex scene.
We're going deep, and we're going hard.
But it turns out to be a standalone mission where you infiltrate a plane and rescue a hostage and jump out. It's not really related to the story, so it's just for fun. And it's hecka fun. I went back and played it on Veteran a bunch of times until I beat it. The trick is to use flashbangs and run past people as fast as you can. Yes, I think this campaign is incredible. When I first played it a few years ago, I found it kinda underwhelming, but I'm more refined now, and after playing all the ones that led up to it, I get the mind-blowingness of this campaign. Having to create an original story when the last two games they made had next to no story seems like it would have gone terribly, but the story of this game is shockingly well done. There are actual villains for you to understand and get invested in. I mean, earlier COD games did have villains, but they were rarely shown or mentioned, and you don't personally shoot them in the head like you do at the end of this game. These are actual story antagonists. The protagonists were a lot more memorable too. Captain Price, Gaz, Nikolai really felt like my bros by the end. Price's backstory was good, and he's just a hard motherfucker. I even felt a connection to the player characters, even though just like the other ones, you don't ever see them or hear them speak. Soap, of course, becomes a much bigger character after this, but even if that never happened, it was fun to play as this kinda rookie on your first assignment in this badass squad. Plus, a name like Soap is gonna stay with you. You don't get quite as much from the American character Paul Jackson, but when he dies slowly in a nuclear inferno, I was like, no, this is not a death befitting a hero. Justice for my boy. Oh yeah, they also did a pretty decent remaster of this game some time ago. I didn't play it for this video because I didn't want to spend $40 on a slight upgrade to something I already have, but it looks nice. And they did some cool stuff, like adding Makarov to this part. People seem generally happy with this remaster. The campaign, at least. But I also think the original version holds up extremely well. There's no question that it's the best one so far. The shooting is the tightest, the combat is the most intense, the animations and details are on another level. We see many modern things, such as cell phone, glow sticks, rap music, fluorescent lights, plastic tarps, all combined with the most compelling story they've told at this point. It's definitely not mid whatsoever, even if I might have thought that a little bit at one point. But is it a masterpiece? Well, I don't think it's a masterpiece of gaming like Elden Ring or GTA 7, but it's absolutely a masterpiece of a Call of Duty campaign. Will the story and gameplay eventually be topped? Well, next on deck is the game Call of Duty World at War, a campaign I've actually never played before, but I've heard only good things about it, so I'm quite looking forward to that. If you're looking forward to that, then hit that subscrizzy and bink that beb. If you liked this video, then you'll want to check out my other COD videos. You're gonna like the way you look. I guarantee it.